Ladies and gentlemen, in the theater of human relationships, there is a point where tolerance becomes weakness, and silence becomes self-betrayal. In the intricate dance of power, affection, and alliance between men and women, not everything is to be endured. Not every behavior, no matter how subtly it presents itself, should be excused in the name of love, peace, or fear of solitude. There exists a line, sometimes thin, sometimes glaring, between what is forgivable and what is unacceptable. And when that line is crossed, a man must choose dignity over desire. Let us speak without euphemism. There are behaviors, covert and overt, that no man should tolerate if he wishes to retain his self-respect, his peace of mind, and the authority over his own life. These are not just missteps of personality. These are strategic violations, sometimes deliberate, sometimes instinctual, but always corrosive to the foundations of a balanced relationship. And when a woman exhibits these traits persistently, it becomes not just a personal problem, but a moral and psychological invasion. First, we must begin with emotional manipulation, the quiet art of turning a man's guilt into a leash. The use of tears as tactics, silence as sabotage, kindness as currency. This is not affection. It is warfare dressed in perfume. A man who finds himself constantly maneuvering to avoid her disapproval, walking on eggshells just to keep her from crying or brooding, is not in love. He is in captivity. Emotional manipulation is the subtle enslavement of a man's mind, and the longer it is tolerated, the more he forgets how to think freely. Second, disrespect in private or public. Disrespect is not always loud. It can be the rolling eyes at his opinions, the mocking tone when he speaks about his dreams, the passive, aggressive insults masked as jokes. Whether it happens in front of others or behind closed doors, consistent disrespect is a direct assault on a man's identity. If a man accepts it, he teaches her that he is not to be valued, and she, in turn, will continue to test just how little he will accept before he breaks. Third, we must identify the cult of entitlement, the belief that she deserves devotion, money, time, and sacrifice without reciprocation. This entitlement is not built on love but on control. It is the expectation that a man must give endlessly while receiving nothing but demands in return. In this relationship, love is measured in transactions, and appreciation is extinct. A man must never tolerate being treated as a servant, whose worth is defined by how much he provides, and how little he protests. Fourth, weaponized sexuality, the deliberate withholding of affection and intimacy as a means of punishment or negotiation. In a healthy bond, intimacy is a mutual expression, not a strategic resource. But when it becomes a bargaining chip, it ceases to be love. It becomes a contract, dictated not by affection, but by leverage. A man who allows this dynamic to thrive becomes a pawn in a game he never agreed to play. Fifth, constant comparison to other men. He buys his wife this. He treats her like that. Why can't you be more like him? These are daggers masked as observations. They are designed to erode confidence and plant the seeds of inadequacy. A man who is measured against others is being told that his uniqueness is insufficient. No man should endure a relationship where he is asked to become someone else just to be worthy of love. Sixth, public humiliation or shaming, whether on social media, in front of friends, or through sarcastic comments at a dinner party. This is a strategy to lower his standing in the eyes of others while establishing dominance. A woman who laughs at his failures, mocks his appearance, or exposes his vulnerabilities to entertain others is not just being cruel. She is weaponizing the crowd to wound him. A man who tolerates this invites more of it, and soon becomes the caricature of himself in her script. Seventh, the most insidious of all, gaslighting, the relentless distortion of reality. She says one thing and denies it the next day. She changes the narrative, turns every argument into his fault, questions his memory, and makes him doubt his sanity. This psychological sabotage makes a man lose faith in his own thoughts, and once a man doubts his mind, she owns not only the story, but the storyteller. Gaslighting is the art of rewriting history to fit her convenience, and a man who endures it becomes an actor in a play he didn't write. Eighth, and finally, the erosion of boundaries. A woman who invades every part of a man's life, his friendships, his hobbies, his space, his phone, under the guise of love or insecurity, is not seeking connection, she is seeking control. Privacy becomes a threat to her power. Independence becomes an insult. She demands access not out of trust, but out of suspicion. A man who allows this intrusion forgets how to be alone, and worse, how to be himself. Ladies and gentlemen, these behaviors are not the flaws of love. They are the weapons of conquest. They are not to be excused. They are to be named. Because the longer a man stays in silence, the more he is reshaped into a version of himself that he no longer recognizes. There is no virtue in enduring psychological sabotage. There is no strength in tolerating emotional tyranny. A man must have the courage to walk away from what diminishes him, not because he is heartless, but because he must protect the heart that remains. Every man owes himself the duty of vigilance. Not every smile is love. Not every tear is truth. Not every relationship is worth surviving if the cost is his soul. In the architecture of power and affection, if one person builds by breaking the other, what stands in the end is not love, but ruin.